So welcome to our 10th Zoom in OLAP meeting, which is the collaborative online community discussion forum project, which is collaboration between Experimental Intermedia and Harvestworks, with Carol Parkinson of Harvestworks and myself, Katherine Liberovskaya from Experimental Intermedia. And Zoom in OLAP was a series that we started in 2021, which was a reaction to the pandemic and being confined, and many artists from many fields of different kinds of performance being having to either not do anything at all anymore, or to use streaming or live online solutions to continue their practice. And so we created this online discussion forum series to talk with people who we thought were doing interesting live performance projects online. And I'm going to pass the screen on to Carol Parkinson, who I'll introduce today's guests.
Okay, thank you, Katherine. For this event, we've invited time-based media artist Claudia Schmitz and sound artist Nicola Hein to talk about their work UnStumm, Augmented Voyage, one of their projects as UnStumm. UnStumm Augmented Voyage is a telematic augmented reality platform and smartphone app. It creates a new approach to VR technology, which is not yet used for telematic live performances with video and sound art. Nicola Hein is a sound artist, guitarist, creative technologist, composer, and researcher in music and aesthetics. Claudia Schmitz is an international time-based media artist who explores boundaries, limits of perception, real and imagined barriers, liquid processes, body discourses. She explores paradigms of media translation as a solo artist and in collaborative projects. So we're really happy to welcome both of them here.
Yeah, thank you so much to Carol Parkins at Harvestworks, and thanks so much to Katherine Liberovskaya and Experimental Intermedia for having us and inviting us to present our project here today. And we will show you today sort of our, let's say, path with our project UnStumm, and how we developed our augmented reality project and how it works. And we'll show you audio and video footage of this as well. Yeah, so let me start my screen share. Before I do this, do you hear the police in the background, or is my noise canceling good enough? No, you hear the police. Let me try another level of noise canceling. I hope now it works. We will find out. So UnStumm, Conversation of Moving Image and Sound, was started in 2016 and has been run by Claudia Schmitz and myself since then. And we developed this project to work together with video artists and musicians from Germany and from other countries, and develop a collaborative practice between video artists and musicians, in which we try to establish an egalitarian aesthetic conversation between the two media. And we have been working with the idea to bring together video artists and musicians from Germany and the countries that we travel to mostly. So this has been usually Claudia and myself, and trumpet player Axel Dörner, and then video artist Louis Nicron van Grieken, or video artist Lilleven, from Germany, traveling to other countries and developing projects with 2 video artists and 2 musicians in these places. And then really take time to establish a practice in a rehearsal period as an audiovisual octet with 4 musicians and 4 video artists from 2 countries, develop a language in that group, and then go and tour in that country where we travel to. We have been doing that in 12 countries over the world, and each time really going through this process of getting a group of video artists and musicians together and trying to develop a language which is unique to that group, and then really sort of take it out on the road. We have done this in collaboration with the Goethe Institute and the Ministry for Arts and Science of North Rhine-Westphalia, as well as many other institutions and venues that we collaborated with in the respective countries. You can see all the history of our past performances also on our website, unstumm.com. And here is some images from performances which we have done, in which I hope what you can see that communicates is really the idea of using the space and using the architecture as a site of plasticizing video and sonic material. So these are, yeah, here, for example, this is an image from Santa Marta in Colombia, and you see the projection of Luis Negron, and on the right, do you remember, Claudia?
Juan Orozco.
So on the right, yeah, and that here's another image from a performance in Cologne, and I will show you a video of a performance from Sweden. Okay, so this was a performance with Claudia Schmitz, Axel Dörner, Lilleven, myself, and then performing together with Casey Moir, Johan Moir, and Nicola Moltke-Hoff. And so this is just to give you an idea, like how we have been working in space, and what, like, let's say the general concept of UnStumm is, and that we have pursued in our different projects. And that we also keep on pursuing now in augmented reality, but of course with a different technology and a different sense of space, a different notion of space. and also, for that matter, a different notion of real time. At this point, I want to say that when we use the notion real time here, of course, we acknowledge the delay that exists due to the internet and information technology. Nevertheless, we call that real-time interaction because we think that still the idea of this interaction is to interact with each other in a however extended notion of presence and real-time as real-time performance between artists. So UnStumm Augmented Voyage is the name of this augmented reality project.
Should I go further now, Nicola?
Huh?
Because we talked about it, I start with the yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So UnStumm Augmented Voyage is the UnStumm telematic augmented reality platform and smartphone app. It aims to develop a new vision of real-time collaboration use of augmented reality or virtual reality technologies in telematic performances. It creates a new approach to virtual reality technology, which is not yet used for telematic live performances with video and sound art. So UnStumm is now increasingly focusing on productions in virtual reality and augmented reality space. This enables an international project development and performance without physical travel. Our interest to develop this work exists already before the current crisis, but the platform will enable us to continue our work, especially during this time. So UnStumm, which means here very concrete Nicola and myself, Claudia, invited and are inviting different artists from audiovisual groups to form audiovisual groups to perform in telematic virtual reality settings. So the performance will take more or less 40 minutes. And in collaboration with programmer and media artist Sven Hane, based in Chile in the moment, UnStumm developed and is in the process of improving a platform for telematic augmented reality performances, which enables the projection of video and sound into a virtual space, and thus open up a virtual space for telematic communication between musicians and video artists, and meanwhile also dancers from all over the world. So the audience can access and move through and around these telematic, move through and around these telematic augmented reality performances via the web-based app on their own smartphone or their own tablet. So the download of UnStumm smartphone app enables the audience to participate in three-dimensional live performances, as well as the retrospective visit of past performances, which is especially great for me as a visual artist, because the performance can be experienced in our app gallery shortly after the end of the performance. No extra editing is necessary, no sifting of the material is necessary, so the performance is already saved with live moving image mapped onto 3D objects and spatialized sound. Why we choose augmented reality over pure VR? Our augmented reality project transfers the stage space into the virtual space and integrates the real space where the audience or the concrete user of the app is at the moment. Here with their own smartphone as, let's call it 3D classes. The space I am in as an audience, my living room, or maybe the airport I'm just leaving from, becomes a place of reception, and this changes permanently. Once a performance has been experienced, it can be re-experienced and reread again and again, simply through the new space of the reception. So as Nicola already said, I don't know, you can find the app on our website, unstumm.com/augmented voyage, but I think we will look at it again together at the end. And now I want to give back to Nicola to explain how our app works, or to show some pictures, videos, whatever might be possible.
Just to say, could you put links in the chat so people could?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Claudia, can you do that?
Yeah, I can do it.
I have a hard time accessing this in full screen mode with the presentation. Yeah, and of course, we also have been supported by different organs of the German art funding system. So thanks for that. Here you can see some of the projections. This, for example, is a performance that we did together with video artist Juan Orozco and sound artist Ana Maria Romano and Claudia Schmitz and myself, filmed at the Louvre. So what you see is a screen capture out of like our smartphone app. And of course, the idea of developing a software tool for a platform which, like, let's say, has a higher flexibility, I would say, than augmented reality glasses of, like, let's say, the Microsoft HoloLenses, or these kinds of things, which are still relatively expensive, is to really use the possibility that nowadays many people do have quite capable small computers in the form of a smartphone that they are carrying around every day. And we work with that platform in order to create performances which have something that you could call a subjective specificity of sight, while there is a performance which has its own integrity. But of course, we have a limited amount of control over the stage, and so to speak, or the site that is used to view the performance, which is exactly what we are interested in here, to really also give a certain, like, let's say, freedom to the spectator to see these performances, which now in this case, once the live performance is done and recorded, can only be played as fixed media pieces. So it's not a flexible content that would somehow change by how you move in space. Once we play it, it is a fixed media piece. But
the movement of the objects are not fixed. They are different always.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But what I'm saying is that it's not
just to say.
Yeah. So and yeah, these pieces can be viewed everywhere on the planet. Now I will explain you a little bit about how this works. So in this case now, for example, these images, this is a performance where you have artists in Berlin and in Bogota. So that would be city A and B. And these are streaming their sound via Jacktrip, developed by Karma and Chris Chafe and Sarah Weaver, to the server, and the video artist using OBS to stream their video streams to our server. And from there, it is downloaded into the app of the audience, where the mapping of the video happens on virtual sculptures, and the sound is mapped onto a virtual multi-channel system, which will give you a different sound depending on your position in space. So that means once you start the performance, you set something like a 0 point, and then depending on how you move in space and you move around the sculptures, the sound is changing as well, because you have a different position in space relative to the virtual speaker system. Here is another image that shows you a little bit more about how the streams work. So you have the sound artist using Jacktrip and the video artists using OBS, streaming to our Node Media server, and from there it is downloaded to the mobile devices. And this is how our server looks from the inside. So this is the audio setup, where you have the incoming audio streams, and I can configure the position of the streams in space, as well as which sound source is routed onto which speaker. This is a perspective of the video setup of our server, where you can see different sculpture models being uploaded, and then the video artists use the streaming keys which are associated with these different sculptures in order to stream their video to these different video sculptures. So every video sculpture has an address, and the video artists can use this address to stream their video footage to one or several of these sculptures. And this is how our recording setup looks like, where we can either choose which sessions are on display, and we can also start the recording of a session, so start a new session and then record it, and then there's a list of performances that is recorded and that can be later on viewed by the audience in the smartphone app, which, by the way, is developed for Android and iOS. And this here is a view of our, so we also developed a computer application which we use to monitor the video streams while we perform. So here you see different video streams coming in and then them being mapped onto virtual sculptures in artificial space. Okay, and here's some more screen captures. Now this is the one that you also see Claudia sitting in. That is in Dresden, right? I believe.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And here more footage from the Louvre. Okay, and we did different with this project technology, UnStumm Augmented Voyage. We did a couple of different projects, which we will tell you about in the following. I don't know, Claudia, do you want to give an introduction to this one, or?
Or yeah, you can just go further because I don't know what kind of image is coming now directly because I cannot see it. So it was our last performance. I can say something. The last we did end of last year, and there are 6 performances with a lot of artists, 17 artists, if I remember it well, from all over the world. And I think so. You will show up now the names, isn't it, Nicola? Of the artists. So it was also between video artists and sound, and just to say it, all the augmented reality stage concept is made by myself. So I can do it. Nicola already said it to the music. He can decide where the loudspeakers are, or yeah, where the sound is coming from in the app, and I decide the objects and create it, and how they are moving is in the moment, not set by us. It's done by mathematics, but we work onto it that we can decide everything by ourselves, which is happening around April, I think so, with a new version of our app, which will be completely different.
Okay, just to give you an idea of how that looks, I would play a video of one of the first performances we did with this setup, which was called UnStumm Preliminary Conversations in Augmented Ether, which was also featuring Katherine Liberovskaya, Mia Masaoka, Seth Cluett, Axel Dana, Claudia Schmitz, Lillivan, and myself. Yeah, this is about 3 minutes. Before we continue, I want to emphasize again, so what you see is the live feed of a live performance. So this is artists in Berlin and in New York performing together live on the internet. And this in real time being downloaded to the smartphones and then viewed on the smartphones of the users. So this is really a real-time interaction, as again, with the condition of an internet performance, but it is a real-time interaction between artists. There's nothing that is pre-made or pre-recorded. But this is really the real interaction with the artists, as if we would be in the same space, but we are in the same space, but it is a telematic space that we are in.
Nicola, you might just explain in case I'm not sure it's clear that the landscape we see is the user who has that smartphone, yes, who's walking around on the street. So,
yes,
so the performance is superimposed onto the reality of that place where that person is walking around with their smartphone.
Exactly. So this was now a friend of ours and cameraman Jan Tierhoff walking around the inner city of Düsseldorf using the smartphone app and then doing a screen record of the smartphone app. So this is what you see on the smartphone. And the idea, thank you for also voicing this, Katherine, is that this is really superimposed into the place which you are at. And that could be anywhere. That could be in Düsseldorf, in Berlin, or it could be your living room or on the Eiffel Tower, wherever you are.
And maybe we should mention that the three-dimensional objects are double-side projected, so you can walk into it with your mobile phone. And the moment you step into an object, you can see it from the inside. And because we are using kind of cutouts in the video material, you can also sometimes look out of the object inside the reality you are in it. So this is very important. If you start to use our augmented reality app, please use wireless LAN because of the data, and please walk around and step into it. This is really important to get a real idea of it.
And the other thing I think we should say about the video objects is that we use the color black as an alpha channel. So what you see here in the beginning this here, the objects coming in is basically the video artist not playing only black, but also gray here in the beginning and then other colors. But black is always mapped as a translucent projection. And this is how then you are able to watch through the objects. Maybe, do you want to say something more about this, Claudia?
No, I think this is enough, isn't it? Because it is just a bit crazy as a video, as for me, not because I'm developing this together with Nicola and Sven, but if we ask our video artists and then we let them know, hey, the black is gone, it will be invisible. It's information which is really important to get, because this change how you perform completely. If you maybe love to use black as a background color or a color for drawings or something like that, live drawings. So it's very important to know that this is not possible because it will be invisible, or you can cut out the objects and open the reality you are in it. So it's like, yeah.
You have a question in the chat. Do you see it?
I cannot read the chat. 1 second.
Okay, I'll read it to you. What is not clear is how the sound and images are reacting to the environment. Someone rode by on a bicycle and that did not seem to change anything.
Well, that is correct. They do not react to the environment. I mean, of course, that would be a choice that you could possibly implement. But we chose to follow the idea that our performance is there and you can watch it in different spaces, but the performance itself is not going to be altered by what is happening in the space. You will perceive it differently, certainly, And also I would say that the difference between viewing this indoor and outdoor is quite important in the perception. Because, like, for example, the performance here, you have seen, it took quite a long way to walk around this object. At least people, I think, have indoor spaces at home where you could do that. So you really need some way to walk around the objects because they're actually quite large. So that means
it's a hard decision, just to
the possibilities of viewing this quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a hard decision to create. The question is always what you want to create. Do you want to create an augmented reality for your living room or maybe for outside on the street, which means maybe 50 meters is completely okay, or maybe for your living room 5 meters up to 10 or so, it's okay. So this is a big question by creating these objects, because for us it's important to find something in between that you are fine with both situations, because using mobile phones is possible everywhere. So we decided something like a middle size.
So another project that we did using UnStumm Augmented Voyage is UnStumm Global Virtual Stages. So again, here, as in Augmented Ether, the idea is that Claudia and myself are performing together with international artists, in this case, from Mexico, Colombia, Japan, Argentina, and Germany. And so this is other than the performances which we did on tour with UnStumm Conversation of Moving Image and Sound, where we were mostly aiming to be 8 artists. Here, the idea was really to work with 4 artists, and in some exceptional cases, there would be 5. Like, for example, the performance with colleagues in Japan, that was with Toshimaru Nakamura, Tetsuji Akiyama, and Akiko Nakayama. We were 5, but usually the setting here is that we are 4, which I think also has the important reason that perceptibility in augmented reality is quite a different thing than being in a physical space. And certainly if you have 4 artists, it's a very different amount of information and also amount of data that has to be handled than if you were 8 artists, because it would be the double amount of data, which has its implications for latency and data consumption. And also for, like, let's say the power that this takes of the smartphone, because certainly if the smartphone has to do more and more rendering, then the processor gets hot, it gets slower. So definitely 4 artists is at this point, I think, a technologically much easier and more rewarding choice than 8. Okay, here's some more images. Now this is from the this is also in Paris again. This is the Atlantic coast of France, again in Paris, and again in Paris. Saint Michel, also in France. Yeah, and we will show you now a performance that was done together with Axel Dörner and Lilleven in Berlin. So in this case, it is that we are all in the same space. So this was part of UnStumm Global Virtual Stages. You see it here, Deutschland, on 9th of July. And in this performance, we are all in the same space, but our interaction happens in augmented reality. So we do not see the video projections in space. They are only there in augmented reality, and the sound happens also in augmented reality and not in the space, other than for the acoustic sound of the trumpet. And maybe that's also an interesting perspective, so that you have a different idea also of how, like, our setup would look like, and how also, you know, the idea of being actually in the same space but still play in augmented reality might affect the playing. Okay. Yeah, you can download our app and try it out yourself on unstumm.com at the end. So there's 2 more projects we want to show you that we realized in augmented reality. Is that okay with time? And then we would still show you the website and how you download the app over there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Augmented Movements is a project that we also realized. So we realized the technical development and rehearsal last year. The premiere will be in fall this year. Nevertheless, there is footage of this already. And this is a project that we did extending our augmented reality framework with dance using infrared cameras to capture the dance. And then to project dance as well into augmented reality. In this case now, what we did was a project with 3 artists from Berlin. So that's Claudia, Ingo Reuleke, and myself, and 3 artists from Seoul in Korea. So Mimi Young, Sejin Kim, and Jin Sang-tae. I will show you some images. Here, this is again in France, and you see the dancer Ingo Reuleke here in the middle, but you also see at the bottom of the screen, on I think it is your left hand in your perspective, you see the body as well, but it's turned around. So certainly we are working here also with having the bodies projected in a different way. This image here, you see both dancers on the left, but you also see the bodies projected on round shapes, so that totally distorts the perception of the body, and I think makes it appear something quite differently and mixed differently also with the video projections. Here, this is on a boat. You can do this on a boat as well. I've tried it on a train. On a train, it's apparently difficult to do the tracking because the app uses the gyroscope and accelerometer of the phone. So if you're moving quickly on a train, it is difficult, but it works on an escalator. I've done escalator rides with the app.
But on the water, it's not possible because I took a lot of video material on the beach. So you can calibrate it on the boat, maybe on the bottom, but not on the water.
Yeah. Yeah, here's more, and I will show you a video of this.
Maybe we should let you know just a bit how the dancers can find a way to interact with the video material and the sound. So they have the monitor app on a as a screen, on a screen or as a projection, and can see what and where exactly the objects are and the video material is, and they can hear also the sound, that they have the possibility to interact. This is very important to know. And we are currently working on the implementation of the dancers. So currently we're using real sensors for this, and we are working on the cutouts and these things because they are not perfect in this video, but we hope we can invite you to the premiere in autumn. So that might be pretty much fantastic. And we are also working onto it to go to Korea and meet all of us, also bring all of us together in one space and work on mixed reality. This is the next step we want to do with this fantastic app we created.
Yeah, maybe we should explain the idea of mixed reality here would be that we are also going to do this later this year with performances only with video art and music, so no dance, or then in Korea with dance. The idea here really is that the audience is able to perceive video projections and dance and sound in augmented reality while the artists are in the space, or also using the overlapping of these projections. So projecting in space and in augmented reality. There's a couple of different options which we will be exploring with our next projects. To conclude our presentation, we want to show you one project that we realized also using augmented reality in last year. We presented this at the NIME conference, New Interfaces for Musical Expression in Shanghai. And this is a human-machine quartet of Claudia and myself with an AI that learns my guitar playing and interacts with me based on that. So you have two musicians, one virtual musician and one human musician, as well as an AI video artist entity that projects video, and Claudia playing video. So it's two humans and two virtual entities performing together. It is a little quiet. You might have to turn up the volume. maybe so far. So this was also at NYU Shanghai. And yeah, for the last part, I will show you how to find this on our website. Let me just open my browser, and then I will show this to you.
Yeah, in the last video, it was a situation where the video was more or less silent, but it was there. Just have a look inside.
Yeah. So you go to our website, unstumm.com. So here is the past events. You can find them all here. So you can have a look about what we did, or click on the different projects here. Here's a writer with our upcoming projects. There is downloads, and here you find the app, Augmented Voyage app. You can actually also find it here as well, but you might as well want to go here and get some more information about how this works. And then you can scroll down, and here you find the app for Android and iOS. I want to mention that for Android, you need to download the AR core elements as well, which is a library that we use to realize the AR projections on Android. On iOS, they come pre-installed.
And it's interesting to check the list if your mobile phone or tablet is, if it's possible to use it.
Exactly.
Or it's maybe too old.
Find performances from Augmented Ether, from Augmented Movements, and global virtual stages in the smartphone app. So to get more information, you can also click on these, and then you see here, for example, the artists, and get information about the project. With global virtual stages, which is one of the concert series, you can also see the history of the concerts as well as the participating artists. Same with Augmented Ether. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you very much for the invitation again. And yeah, we're looking forward to discuss with you what you think and what questions are, or what else you think about it.
Yeah, there was one question from Alan Perman. Maybe you can ask now, because it's easier to answer here than writing a long text. Your mic is silent.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have a whole bunch of questions, actually, more than that. The first question was, how are you sending the video signals and overlaying? That's the first question on the dancers. How are you sending those video signals?
Wait, so you say, how are the video signals of the dancers sent?
How are you how are you getting the movement of the dancers into
Augmented
the
reality.
AR, and where are the dancers, and how are you sending that? That's obviously, are you going through OBS? Are you compressing the video? Like, what's going on there?
So we are using infrared cameras to do the tracking of the dancers, and to like cue them out of wherever they are, so out of their background. And then so this is a part of software that was specifically written for this project. And so this is another computer application that was written only for this project. We didn't show this to you, but the idea here is to use an infrared camera to get the video of the dancer, and then it is sent via OBS on yeah.
And
so
the mapping of the dancers on the object is the same way like we did before with the video. We explained it via OBS and our app.
Okay, and my other question was, when you showed the musicians all playing together, and they were, they were all in the same room. For the viewer, how are they able to distinguish between all the musicians playing in the room and the sounds that they're hearing? Like, if I was a viewer, I wouldn't know if I was watching a performance or if I was hearing the sounds in the app. it was be very hard for me to distinguish watching a performance of 4 or 5 people and then seeing the app and hearing the performance. And when I watched it, I couldn't distinguish.
Well, here you were only hearing the sound in the app and not the sound in the space. That was inaudible.
Okay.
In the future, once we will be doing mixed reality performances, we will also do projects in which you have musicians in space and then other musicians that are performing with them over the internet, overlaid in augmented reality. Yeah. But so far, really, the audience can hear us only in augmented reality. So that means with your smartphone and then headphones.
Okay, I just have one quick question about the dancers. So you had an infrared camera. What was the infrared camera? Was it like a connector and a Zoom, or was it a specific?
A RealSense.
It was a RealSense.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were tracking them in RealSense in infrared, and then how were you piping that in? Like, what were you converting that with? I mean, you have the RealSense camera and it went to what? And then it went out to what? The infrared signal.
The infrared signal goes to a custom-made software, which is used to cue the dancers and then to forward the signal to our server.
Okay. Okay. So did you do that in Max and C? What did you do it in?
It's in C.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks. It's really amazing. But that's why I'm looking at it. I'm going.
Okay, but our app is written in, I think so, currently in 7 languages, something like this, because it's so much to do, so different things to work on, different libraries to use on, and we are currently working on to be independent of AR Core and AR Kit, because this is a problem. You saw it maybe. You saw some videos taken by iOS system, on some by Android system, and there the objects or also the dancers looks completely different. And then we decided to be independent of it. And this is currently happening in the background. And we are very happy because this means also we can implement Linux systems, which is also fantastic as an idea of politics. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And why infrared? What difference does that make in relation to other kinds of cameras?
Because we want to cut out and we don't want to use a green screen or blue screen. So we decided we can make it very, in the idea of a stage for the dancers, very simple. So we don't have to set up these links, and we can use the infrared and cut out it. So it's like.
So hi. It's a wonderful project. So you're not using the depth data from the RealSense, you're just using the depth data as a whatever to isolate them in space when they're dancing. Oh, that's interesting, because that's one thing I was confused about. Are they getting the depth data and being positioned in the XYZ axis of the server processing, I guess was a question.
No, what happens here is that the projection happens on the object, and the object determines the position in space. What we did here with the projections of the dancers, which is different from the video objects, and that is only the case for the upright images that you see here of the dancers, not those like projected shapes that you see like here on the side. So this is also a body of a dancer, but then projected on a spherical object. And these objects you can walk around and you really get a 360 perspective, as well as also walk into them and look out from the inside and so forth, because they are also animated from the inside. These dancers here, and they work a little different than the other objects because these will always be facing towards the spectator. So however you walk around them, they are always facing you. And of course, as they go closer to the camera, they will get larger, but that's about it. But it's not really changing their position in space.
Yeah. Thank you.
Which I should say, that's also a solution that we came up with to solve the problem of synchronizing space in augmented reality at all, because the problem that you have is how do you establish the relationship of movement if you are in a different space, which I think is a different problem than what we have here with the video objects. So really, in that sense, creating a framework which has a relative stability in itself already, given the sort of differences that occur with dancers in different spaces. That was sort of a solution to be able to somewhat make them work together also for the spectator.
And is there any plans for, because what's happening now is the video is getting mapped on these spheres and things, but is there any plans for the video to actually interact and somehow modify those shapes, the spheres and things, because that could be cool too.
Yeah, we are working on it. This is what I talked about it, that in the moment we cannot change the objects like in a form of a morph or something like that. This is because of the background system we are using in the moment. But next step, because I talked about it, RR Core and RR Kit. If we say goodbye to this kind of libraries, then we can do everything what we want to with the objects. And this might be very interesting. I think so.
Hi.
So I think that John is gone because there was also a question. I hope I answered it. Yeah, I did. Okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
I was just again the clarification on the spatialized sound. So there are two speakers that you position relative to the objects, or is it multiple speakers? You know, when it's happening.
Yeah, it's basically unlimited amounts of speakers, theoretically. Of course, it ups the data. Usually what we have been doing is to work with 4-channel systems. And then what it does is that it gives, it does create a binaural model of how they sound. And then also as you turn around yourself, but also as you move in space, you get a different binaural mixdown depending on your position to these virtual speakers. And yeah, depending really on the performance and other concerns, I think it's mostly like a 5x5 or 10x10, sometimes also 2x2 sort of rectangle or square that I use for like the 4-channel system. So I can basically assign an X, Y, Z position. You can also move them on, move their heights. That works as well. And then there's different models for the distance encoding for the binaural mixdown, which I can choose on the server side. This is, wait, I was in the presentation. Let me see. I'm going back to that so I can show you. Okay, let me do my screen share again. There. Yeah. So here you see the audio setup, and on the left, so that's, I wish I could see my cursor. Now you can see my cursor, right? Can you see my cursor? Yeah. So this is the input coming from the musicians. When this screenshot was taken, there is only one musician logged in, hence new client 2. It's only one source. If there is several musicians connected to the server, well, there's more. And these are the outputs. This would also be where I decide how how the artists are getting a monitoring sound. So I'm at the same time doing the monitoring for the artists, sending the signal back via jacktrip to them, as well as what I do down here is to create the speakers, which then I can assign an input source to. And this is the XYZ position of the individual speakers. Here is the delay in time to be able to synchronize video and audio delays. And here you can choose the distance encoding model. And so here, this would now be these two speakers that have been created, and this is the monitor signal going back to the musician, which is also sending the signal, or to another musician. And here, then I could say, okay, input number 1 goes to speaker number 2, input number 2 goes to speaker number 1, or whatever. And I can create as many speakers as I want, basically. But yeah, it's of course more audio streams. But yeah, so 4-channel has been our sort of standard situation over these concert series that we did.
So
Yeah,
Nicola,
it's also very important to have, Katherine, to have this kind of equality between video and sound, because the video data is so immense, bigger than the audio for sure, but it's pretty much harder to implement it. And so it's very important to find something like a level of same quality, because it's a project that we have. There's no illustration from video to sound or sound to video. It's on the same level and the same height. So it's very important to find in an aesthetic way something like a in a fairness way a level. So if you have not hundreds of objects, but hundreds of loudspeakers, so there is a question, does it make sense or not? And because the idea of UnStumm was to have 2 video artists, 2 sound artists, or 3 video artists, 3 sound artists, and so on. And I also want to say something, because Nicola already was into it, of the data, because of the dancers, because there were so many questions of there was the idea also to use a 3-dimensional scanned object of the dancers, but it's really not possible because of the data.
so I wanted to ask Nicola, so what you just showed, would you be changing that live during the performance, or would it be, you would set that up during sound check and then let it go?
Yes, exactly. I can change the routing. I could during the performance. I've never done that because I think it's more interesting to really define how the speakers are set up, and then the artist needs to decide of how they want to project. I mean, it's a little bit like replugging speakers during a performance. I also wouldn't do that, but definitely. Also, if I take out speakers and if I add speakers during the performance, that's definitely gonna have its effect for the synchronization of the whole performance and the recording process.
Yeah, and the same with the objects in the video, because it looks more or less the same to bring it into it.
In the video, are you also, because as you know, I've participated, but I never knew. So at what point, or do you decide before the performance starts which video is mapped to which objects, or is it an algorithm? Yes. You decide beforehand.
I decided, I create the objects, I decide how they move in the space, more or less, and because the rest is for free by mathematics, but I can define it more or less like Nicola can define the loudspeakers, but there is a movement inside of the objects. And I decide also who is getting what. We talked about it, I know, because we had these kind of cubes and bubbles and rings, I think so. So Lilibin was ring, I was bubble, he was cube, more or less, if I remember it right. So this is something now in a very simple form to explain. Then you will get your objects, which can be very complicated or very simple. But in the beginning, we started with simpler objects because of the data, to find out how far we can go. And now we can go pretty much higher, more complicated in the object shape.
I have a question. Do you think the introduction of 5G is gonna just blow it away and you're gonna be able to do so much more, or isn't that a concern for you?
We are recording already with 5G, and this is pretty much better than 4G.
Yeah,
Okay.
so for what we did for our performance series was to do a live performance in our app, but also to have our cameraman Jan Tierhoff use the app and do a live screen share on Twitch and YouTube in real time, so that people who do not have the possibility to run this app, because in the end you need, in terms of iPhone, you need at least an iPhone 6S and everything that is newer, because only at that point Apple started using gyroscopes, I believe. And below it doesn't work. So you're already asking quite a lot, and that's certainly not quite inclusive. And so that's why we also wanted to have a live stream to make it more inclusive for people to watch. And for this, we were using 5G, and certainly using 5G was a very good idea in terms of the stability of the broadcasting. But I think that, of course, if you do downloading, so you're streaming, and at the same time you're uploading to YouTube and Twitch, well, then you're also really multiplying the data that you need at the same time. So for like usual consumption, I think 4G is absolutely enough.
Yeah,
but 5G was a good idea for this. But I think that definitely once 5G becomes more of a normal tool, which certainly in many parts of Asia it already is, you can do quite other things because your bandwidth is wider. So you can certainly think differently. So we could have more sculptures running at the same time, or speakers or whatever.
Yeah. Or dancers.
Could you do you have a link to that Twitch channel? And is it saved on it, what you did in Twitch, or did it just happen and then disappear?
There's one, if you go on our webpage, the last, wasn't it Augmented Ether, Mexico? There you can see the Twitch channel directly. Maybe I put it here in the chat. Give me 1 sec. One sec. Yeah, here it is.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, it was in a collaboration with Augmented Reality platform in Mexico. And there was also a talk before. This was just quite a bit different to our normal way how we perform. There was an interview with Nicola and myself, and then we performed. And then there was also a discussion with the audience. It was also interesting to have everything in a telematic way all together.
Well, I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about the upcoming work, the new work that you're going to be doing.
You mean mixed reality, or?
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
what's coming up next? Okay, cool.
This is our dream, but in the moment it's very hard because we didn't talk about it, but you mentioned it just a bit because of Axel and the trumpet. The problem is how you can bring everything together, which means sound on stage, sound in the app, and then to synchronize it anyhow. In the video part, I think so it is possible and easier possible, but also to work with the latency and to really react all together onto it. This is really something we are trying to solve now using NDI. And to implement it. So I think so, yeah.
You can see this here. Here with the video artists, you see we are using RTMP formats to stream to our server right now. And RTMP is a good format, but it comes at a certain like latency. And what we are currently doing, and we hope this will be done until April, is to replace RTMP with NDI in order to get a better latency. And we will also, for some mixed reality performance, be working with a local server. So really to minimize the latency. And I mean,
but we had to use RTMP because of the RR core and kit I said before.
Yes, exactly. So that's the problem is that as you are working with iOS and Android, that you have to find spaces that are understood by both platforms. And so that is the reason of why we are currently working with HLS streams. And so once we are gotten rid of these iOS and Android libraries, we have a different freedom at defining our own framework. And so that will certainly change the latency quite a bit. Currently, the sounds like best latency is from like you doing a sound through the server into the app is about 1 second. So this is nice. But if you are in a space and someone produces a sound on an acoustic instrument, that's too much. Then you always hear a delay. With the video currently, I think it's about 10 seconds when there is a good connection of latency. So we are optimizing this part to be able to really realize these mixed reality performance, which we will be doing in fall in Germany, to have the possibility to really do this. Yeah, and so this dance project, we will also be developing into a mixed reality format, as well as still premiere this format in late summer, early fall, and do different variations of that. But I think I hope it's clear that the idea is to really try to develop this framework further to a point where mixed reality performances are latency-wise a good option, where the different platforms, so iOS and Android, are working the same way, projecting the same way, as well as also we will be changing the optical framework of this, so it's also possible to really use it as goggles. So with a frame that you can put the device in to use them as goggles, and then to generate a more immersive experience, which eventually we will also be working with other augmented reality glasses for mixed reality performances, where you have a handle on like a limited supply of devices. Because of course the problem would have been if we developed this whole thing for augmented reality glasses from the beginning. This is, I mean, VR glasses is still something that I would say mostly gamers and universities have, but not so many people have it at home really. So developing something for that is a very like I would say like insular undertaking. It makes sense if you make a performance and you have it there, you can supply it and you have a hand on that. But if you, like we did with our projects here so all these projects that you saw were from 2021. So that's a bunch of projects in 1 year where it was pretty certain that inviting an audience into a space is maybe not the easiest idea. So that's certainly part of like going in that direction with the development. But I think in the future, we will also be using different AR glass infrastructures.
Yeah, because they are becoming cheaper and better, and you don't have to use a computer for each classes. So this is also a problem. You have to think about how you can bring all these computers in the space, and where the audience and how free they are to walk around. And the idea behind the mobile phones was also that it's barrier free in a way. It's not really barrier free, I know, but yeah, but this was the idea behind, and therefore we started to create this kind of yeah, possibility to bring your mobile phone directly in front of your eyes as 3D classes.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the video. You know, two things are the, you know, the issue of the compression codec, and the other thing is the speed of light and the speed of sound are different. And I always found that because of the speed and light of speed of sound and the compression codec, that there would always be in video more delays. And there are groups, there's a group in Belgium who's actually trying to create a new codec for video. You know, it's very experimental. And that's one of the issues when you said it was a 10-second delay, it didn't surprise me at all. Whereas the speed of sound, especially over Jack Trip, is like ultimately 1/300th of a second, ultimately. So, so, you know, there's a big difference in compression codecs. And I really wondered if you were ever going to incorporate, not, although using infrared is brilliant, a really brilliant solution, if you were ever going to incorporate any kind of miniature volumetric video, which I know that NYU Shanghai specifically has been developing with Scatter, and they've been developing it for 3 or 4 years. They've actually been doing the engineering on it. So you can have volumetric video over iPads and things.
Yeah. Well, we had the idea at some point to have a volumetric projection of the dancers when we started developing this project, but eventually we decided to go with the image of the infrared camera for different reasons. But this concern was certainly discussed.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I still wanted to say about the audio monitoring is that, exactly as you say, Jackrip has a very low latency, and with the audio routing that I showed you, the latency that the musicians are interacting with is really like the like lowest latency you can get with Jackrip, in that it goes from one computer over the server directly to the other computer. So like you would do in any other performance using Jackrip or another server, unless you do P2P.
And I hope they create something for video.
1 second. Yeah, so that's way less than 1 second. It's just that if you go from the server to the smartphone, you have some extra way that makes the latency longer.
And depends also of your own device and your connection. This is something we should talk about, because the sound is very fast there, and then you have to wait for the video. And this is, yeah.
But this is the case with all network performance, that all of the latency and it is distributed. But just to get back to the mixed reality performance. So if you were doing, or when you are doing a concert in a live space, which is mixed reality, would you be both playing the live musician's sound in the space and then having a feed from the app also, you know, feeding on different channels in the space, and they would be mixing in the space, for example, for audio and also for video? Would you have a screen which would be projecting the app onto on one screen, and the other screen would have like just a live video? Or how would you do it?
The idea behind is also that we create a new state that you as an audience can walk around, for example, because you have your mobile phone as a 3D glasses directly in front of your eyes, and then you can walk around, and you have the mixed reality means you have maybe Bogota in telematic way, and we are performing live in maybe New York. So it's like, yeah, and then you can overlap it in the classes.
So, but you wouldn't be having someone.
And the sound, if you have, this is something we can discuss also here. It's if you have instruments like a trumpet, you will hear it always in the space. You cannot, yeah. cannot make it silent anyhow. So this is something if you play an electronic way, then it's possible to bring everything in the app, in the sound. But if not, then you have to deal with.
Well, but yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. So you wouldn't have a person just projecting on a screen as I do, as Lilybeth does during like a non-virtual concert, plus the app. You would then, like in a mixed reality, you would have the video
Yes, but
only
there is
through the app.
there's no projection of the app.
Right.
You can
So,
see.
but there would be both a projection and people would have the app on their phones, or there would be just their phones.
Both. So we are working on different projects, and both is sort of in the process of being done.
Yes.
So we are also trying to explore different frameworks, really depending on the project that we want to realize. But both has been discussed, and the same also with like, let's say, having live sound of musicians in space, and then having the sound of other musicians which play via internet through the app on headphones, or so, or have everyone only in augmented reality, so similar to the video. Both is projects that we want to realize, and that eventually we will see realized in fall and early 2023.
And hopefully we are coming to New York in autumn. So let's invite all of you. And we will perform with Katherine Liberovskaya and in collaboration with Parkinson. So hope we will meet very soon, live.
That'll be great. Come on, Goethe Institute.
Yeah, North Rhine-Westphalia and all the others. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions?
Yes.
From the audience?
Hi, me again. So then the objects are moving in the AR, is that correct? I've like two clarifications, I guess. That the objects are moving currently in the AR, and then the discussion of latency is so interesting. Like, I guess I kind of have a romance around latency, and the elimination of it is the elimination of space, I guess. So it seems like you guys really are looking to eliminate that wholly. But to back up, currently the performers, they're all getting their streams as latent as you can with delays. And then that goes through the server and is processed into AR. And then the audience gets that about 10 seconds later. But just a clarification.
Yes. So that's exactly the case. The idea is to have the lowest possible latency between us when we play. And then the audience right now is a little bit behind. And that's also because we are using HLS streams to go from the server into the smartphone, because this is the format which is understood by Android and iOS at the moment, with the like AR kit and so the two different augmented reality
AR core,
AR core, which is why we're using HLS, but that adds a lot of extra latency, the HLS. So that will be sorted out in the coming month, and then there will be a lower latency for the audience. Between us, we do not have that problem. Of course, there is the latency of RTMP, but that will be swapped by NDI also soon, and then this latency will be lower as well.
To answer your question regarding the objects, yes, they are moving, but they are moving randomly according to previously determined parameters in the moment. But we are also working onto it that we can change it. But this is also the moment we are say goodbye to the libraries of AR Core and Kit, that this is the moment we can play with the bubbles, rings and cubes, whatever.
So I did have a question about the performance venue, since I'm thinking of trying to present you guys. Do you need very fast internet? Is that a requirement?
Yes.
And
And very stable. Fast is one aspect, but stable is the other one, which is pretty much more important.
I see. And then did I hear you mention that you were thinking of putting a local server in the mixed reality setting? Or not? It's all.
Yes. Yeah. For mixed reality, the idea is also to bring in a local server, so to even eliminate needing to go via our server, which stands in Germany. So of course, if we would be playing in New York and we would use that server while you go from New York to Germany back to New York, well, that adds a lot of latency already.
But that also means that the audience has to log into the local network, right?
Yes.
The audience
that
members,
would-
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
Or if not
that-
questions, announcements could be possible too. Does anyone have announcements, or does anyone want to tell us about any of their own projects that have to do with online live performance? And or does anyone want to raise any other like, we are also a think tank, and any questions that people could help us with, that people here could help them with, or could suggest anything. So I think Ellen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, our network residency we're doing with Counterpulse in San Francisco, Hot Club is having a work in progress on March 10th. I'll drop the link in, and then we'll world premiere it on May 7th. And Hot Club consists of Miller Puckett and Martine, whose last name I can't remember, and Kate Bergstrom, and they've been working with robotics and surveillance in the network. And I'll drop that link in so you can see their work in progress on March 10th, and then the actual world premiere will be on May 7th. So I'll just drop that link in 1 second. So I just wanted to announce that. And also Dilate Ensemble, the work Cantina that they did already, it was done January 13th and 14th, and now that's on the web. And we're having with Sarah Weaver on March 4th, a panel with Dilate and Sarah Weaver. So I'll drop those two links in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, thank
Because
you.
it's all
Awesome.
network. It's all network.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you say that's happening in San Francisco, was it?
Well, the residency is using, there's an organization almost like Dance Theater Workshop, if you know that, in New York, or PS 122, and it's called Counterpulse in San Francisco. It's an actual physical building that exists. It's for dance and performance, and they've partnered with us at ThoughtWorks Arts to host 2 network residencies using their building and the extensions beyond it. So that's why we say it's taking place in San Francisco. But of course, since it's networked, it's actually a distributed event. I'll just drop the links in. Okay, just let me get them.
Yeah, that would be great. And unless we have any other announcements or questions or comments.
I have one
anyone?
announcement.
Oh, go ahead.
I put also a link inside the upcoming events of UnStumm. There you can also find the performance we talked about dance. It's already there, but there's no date. But we also have a performance with Kvanch Tata and 3 artificial intelligence. And this will be happen in April. So if you want to join us, feel free. You
Yeah,
can find it in the upcoming events.
We should have mentioned that as well. So this is another project that we are currently pushing to do, like human machine groups in augmented reality. So this one will be with Claudia, myself, and then Kvanch Tata. And all of us bring our 3 virtual friends. So it's a human machine sextet with 4 music entities and 2 video entities. And yeah, so that's another string of work that is developing currently, and that will certainly also be we will be doing more in the future.
Is
Yeah,
that
we
on,
do a lot of other.
is that
sorry.
on the website that you have? Is that the link you put on the website?
Yes,
in
this
the
is
chat?
upcoming events, and you will find it there. Yeah, and we do a lot of other stuff, so solo projects and these things, and other group projects. And sometimes we also sleep. Because it sounds like, this is something, we work on it. Yeah, it's a lot to do.
And then on the side of Experimental Intermedia, there's the March concert series coming up, which is going to start March 15th and until March 29th. And so there will be 3 concerts, which will be a collaboration with Friedman Gallery, which will be in person, but also streamed. And then the rest of the events will be still virtual. So some of the performances or screenings will be live. And also next Wednesday, Experimental Intermedia is starting a new seasonally series because Experimental Intermedia has the XI record label, which has almost 50 CDs by now. And so we're starting a series that's going to be called Meetings with XI Composers, where every season, so winter, spring, summer, and fall, we have very informal interviews with composers who have CDs on the XI label. And so the very first one will be this Wednesday, March 2nd, with composer David Behrman. So join us for that. And that'll be an online virtual interview. So more virtual stuff, not completely in line with what we're talking about here. Not all of it live online performance, but in any case, virtual online stuff.
Are you still sending a Zoom link to that via your newsletter, or what is that?
Yes, everything will be on the Experimental Intermedia website. I could put that in again. I think most people knew it, but the David Behrman interview will simply be streamed on our website, and then the March series, the announcement is in the process of being finalized, and we'll post that this week. So
I guess tonight at 11 p.m. Harvestworks is streaming a new experimental video compilation called Foreign Correspondence, and this is the fifth of the series, the fifth one of the series. It also is streamed on Manhattan Cable Network. So the link is on our website if you want to tune in and see some new experimental video pieces. It's put together by Dylan Marchese.
Yeah, so
Where on your
interesting
website
things.
is that link? Carol, where on your website is that link?
I'll put the direct page on there. Did you see it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I found it, I think. Yeah, okay, thank you.
You might know Hans on there. He has a piece that's on that in the compilation.
Ah, okay, great.
Hans Thalmann.
And I don't want to do advertisement, but we are on Facebook and Instagram. We have a webpage, so feel free to contact us whenever you want to. I would be happy to have you as an audience also during our live performance. But don't forget, you can go into our gallery and see everything there, or the day or the night, whenever you want to. Yeah. One sec. Where is it?
So if that's all the announcements and all of the questions and all of the comments, maybe this is time to leave you.
Thank you all for coming.
And yeah, and stay tuned. We're not completely sure if when and if we'll have a next one, because now the amazing weather is coming again and in-person stuff is back. So it's, we'll play it by ear. It's not much sense doing these if nobody's going to come because the weather is too nice. Because the idea why we started again this winter, after we did 7 last winter and then didn't think we'd start again this fall, and then we did, it was because of Omicron. So let's see how it goes, but it will be on our newsletters and websites and email lists if we do one. I mean, hopefully we'll have at least one more in 2 weeks on March 13th, but stay posted for that. And
Thank you very much, Claudia and Nicola. It was really, really nice to see what you've been doing, hear about it, and also hear about the back end programming and how you're solving those problems. I think we're really looking at a totally new advances in telematic. Don't you think so, Ellen?
Yeah, what I find really interesting about what you're doing is the AR part of it, especially in that you're going to de-hierarchy the proprietary softwares. And that's sort of something when we created the network residency, that was after lockdown and working with people mostly in Europe who are creating their own server systems and technologies, but they were still limited by RTMP. But so that's very interesting for me to hear what you're doing, because that is the only way to circumvent, from my point of view, the domination of the big 5 over these technologies. Yeah. Which is coming faster and faster and faster. And so I'm very happy to hear that the German government is supporting you to do this.
Yeah, and we should mention again Sven Hane, our programmer, the man behind. He's German, but he's now in Chile. He's solving all our ideas. We have crazy ideas, and he's creating all these things together with us.
Yeah, because I don't see the United States moving in that, or North America for that matter, that direction. And all the support that I've seen for alternative network topologies and alternative systems and the development, all the way down to the fiber optic backbone, is coming from Europe. Maybe they're in Korea, I don't know, but I'm just seeing Europe is really initiating that in a really interesting way.
I'm very often in Korea, so they are really faster than we are.
Really?
Yeah, they are so incredibly fast. It's really crazy. Yeah.
Good to know.
But for sure, I also want to say thank you to our government, because they helped us a lot to develop all these things, but they helped us also a lot through this crisis. Just to mention it.
Lucky you. Lucky you.
Yes.
Thanks again to Carol and to Katherine for the invitation and to give us the possibility to present our work to you today. Really, thank you.
It was a super presentation.
Yes, and I think we have to check in. We'll have to check in on your progress, because it sounds like you're really investigating some exciting things.
And just to mention, I noticed a couple of people came late, so this will eventually be on the Harvestworks website. Just give it some time. We got to get the volunteers and interns organized to set that up, but it will be there. So if you know, check back in a couple of weeks, and if you want to see the beginning of this presentation, you will find it there.
And it's a playlist. So we've started a playlist called the Online Live Art Performance Series. So it's easy to find.
Yeah, and I saw that there are very fantastic colleagues in this list. So thank you again for being part of it.
Until soon.
Oh, yes. So thank you very much. Take care. Have a nice weekend, the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.